Hey, this is William Foley. We are live streaming right now. We're waiting for the connection to come in, but it looks like it's coming in. This is William Foley with Foley Divorce. Like we say on our YouTube channel, this is a roadmap to divorce. I guess just for this live stream, there's just I'll call them a few ground rules, right? I can't give legal advice. I'm not your attorney. I'm not. I am an attorney. I'm a Florida divorce lawyer, and I practice divorce and family law in Florida, primarily in Tampa, but really all over the state of Florida. My main office is in Florida, and I can't give you specific information for your situation, but I can talk to you generally, and that's what this is really about. And this channel, Foley Divorce, just understand that the laws are always changing, and we're here as a channel to try to give a little bit of information about it. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of jump right in. You know, one of the questions that we get is about attorney-client privilege, and that's a great one really for this video, because there's no attorney-client privilege. Obviously, we're on the interwebs, right? Like, we're out there. You know, we are live streaming right now, so it's obviously public, and there's a chat if you want a live chat. If you jump on in here, and we see that there's, you know, some viewers in there. So if you are able to go in chat and put some information in there, I'm going to be trying to multitask between a couple different things. And if you can't tell already, this is my first time doing this as a live stream, so bear with me a little bit. But hopefully we'll get the comments in there. There'll be live comments that will be coming in. And then I have some other comments from other videos. And one of them was about the attorney-client privilege. And that's a great one for this live stream, because attorney-client privilege is pretty awesome. And it's great for attorneys to be able to have that ability to speak with their clients, to be able to talk with them, and they have that you know, the trust tree, right? Remember in the movie Step Brothers, you know, it's like sitting in the trust tree, and I thought it was in the tree, I was in the tree. That's kind of the attorney-client privilege. You're able to say things to them that's privileged. It's important. On here, on YouTube, on a live stream, this is not privileged, so I won't be answering specific information about somebody's specific, and don't put your specific stuff out there, because like I said, I'd like to try to keep the comments up, but if I gotta, you know, turn that off, then I gotta do it. But for the most part, I want to go back to some old videos that we got some really great questions, and one of them was, and I'm just gonna use kind of initials. I'm not gonna just, you know, throw everybody's stuff out there. S, she had asked about inheritance, right? And I haven't really looked at these questions, so I haven't like prepared, you know, crazy amounts of information about it. But it's a good question about inheritance and whether it's excluded from marital property. Sometimes this comes up in all different types of marriages and divorces. You know, for the most part, that it's a good idea to have a prenup or a postnup. Okay, and we have other videos on our channel. Feel free to subscribe if you want. And there's at least 2 or 3 other videos right now. We'll have some more coming out about prenups and postnups, but those videos explain the background of it. So I'm not going to go way into depth on prenups or postnups, but you know, for the most part, my producer is just absolutely just reaming me right now. So she wants me to, you know, jump in there and really to be able to connect. And I understand that, but this is an important, you know, part of the question for prenups, is that it can protect the situation, right? You know, it can protect your inheritance, can protect premarital property. But then there's always this like magical thing, called co-mingling, right? And this is where people get a little bit tripped up on it. And it can do the trick, with the prenup or postnup, and maybe be able to protect that property so it's not commingled, or maybe a trust being set up. And my firm doesn't, do trust, but you can go to an attorney that deals with trusts and estates, and that's a good way to build something, and proper estate planning, to put information in there about inherited property. But a prenup and a postnup is really important to just make sure that you're very clear, because overall, and again, bringing it back to Florida, because I only practice in Florida, the main aspect of Florida law with regards to inheritance and premarital property during a divorce is that it is set off. So if it's somebody's inherited property or premarital property, it is supposed to be classified as non-marital or premarital. So that's great. It's just the issue becomes commingling. And so I say that word, and I say commingling, and sometimes people will be like, what do you mean by commingling? Stop using, lawyer speak. And basically it's, let's say you got $100,000 account that was left to you by your grandfather, and it's been sitting in this, JP Morgan Chase account, and it's been just sitting there and building a little bit of interest through the years. So you got a new job, right? And now you're at your new job and you get a paycheck, and now you're married, let's say 5-10 years down the road, you're married. So you take your marital paycheck, because you're married, from the time that you're married till the time that, from the time you say I do till the time you say I don't. Those are the time frames the court's looking at for figuring out whether something's marital, non-marital, and classification of assets and liabilities in a divorce. So you got it within those parameters for the, prior to the marriage and then after the date of filing. But let's say you took that, $500 that you made from your paycheck and you put it into that account. Now the issue becomes is, how do you trace that? How do you trace that information, the information from that investment? Because if it's in an interest-bearing account, or it's being invested, like one penny just moving around in an account, is really hard to see where that money went. So that's what commingling is in a nutshell. I guess a long nutshell, but it's a nutshell. So basically, commingling is the issue that comes up in these inheritance types of issues. So thank you for that question. And it's a great idea to get a trust. It's a great idea to get a prenup. It's a great idea to get a postnup, and to add on those extra layers if something can come up. But is the law specific? And again, coming back to Florida, and different states have different laws on this issue, but coming back to Florida, it's an equal distribution state. So they're looking at Florida statutes 61.075, and they're looking at what they're classifying as marital, and then what they're classifying as non-marital or premarital. So basically that's a little bit of information about the inheritance, commingling, that side of things. So thank you. Good question, and I appreciate it. Now getting back to the stream itself, like I said, I am a Florida divorce lawyer, and this is what I do. Again, not your lawyer. I am a practicing lawyer. I have a law firm in Tampa, Florida, that and we practice all around the state of Florida. But if you need legal advice, you need to go to an attorney to speak with them about that. This channel is a roadmap, and you'll see it on the About Us page on YouTube, right? And it says we're a divorce roadmap. We are your divorce roadmap. So what does that mean? it's a framework. So it's basically, we are like a tour guide through the divorce system. And I've been doing this for 15 years. So I've seen, thousands of cases and dealt with, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and hearing their situations and realizing that everybody's situation is different. So there's no two situations that are exactly the same. There's no two couples that, come together, two people that come together as a couple, and their relationship is going to be different than anybody else's. So that's a really important thing to remember. And that's why, in something in this context, or even a lot of these videos, it can't be legal advice, because legal advice is specific to your specific set of circumstances. So that's when you would get an attorney, no matter where you are, no matter if you're in Florida or in any state, United States. You're going to want to speak to an attorney about your specific set of circumstances. But now this is where the education comes in. I tell all of my clients, to educate themselves about it, and educate themselves just like if you were going to be buying a new camera. You might watch 50 new YouTube videos about the camera, or a lawnmower, and do you get the bells and whistles one, or do you get the old school push that you gotta pull the crank and you're gonna research it, you're gonna go into it, and sometimes in like painstaking detail, like just as human beings, what we do for buying things and making buying decisions, we research it and then analyze it and then research it again. It could be a bathing suit. It could be just, something on Amazon that's $4.87, but we've spent like 9 hours researching it and looking for all the different deals and things out there and reading all the different reviews. So that's, for like a $5, back scratcher or something like that. This is a divorce. It's a big deal, right? It's a rest of your life. If you have children, they're going to deal with any decisions that you make for the rest of their lives. They're going to, and again, that's weighty. That's a big burden on your shoulders. But it's important to remember that. It's important to remember that, and I've heard judges say it all the time, that the decisions that the parents make are going to obviously affect the children, not just through their ages of until they're an adult, through until they're 18, but for the rest of their lives. So it's important to do that research. Read books. There's enough of them out there that you can get some information for reading. Go on websites. There's tons of attorneys putting some really, really good information out there. We have a good amount of information, but there's lawyers that have way more than I do out there. Blog content, doing videos, and watch them. Watch the videos. Read the information. This is the rest of your life. This is not only, like I was going back to the situation with your children, but so much of what divorce is also dissolving, obviously the marriage, and that whole other side, that's probably for a whole other subset of videos. And we're going to get into one of the questions about a little bit later on in this live stream about comment that we had about relationships and things like that. But for this part of it right now, for assets and liabilities, so you have a certain amount. Let's let's say you got $100,000 of an estate between the two of you, between your, husband and wife. So Florida presumes that there would be an equal split, 50-50, equitable. It's called equitable distribution. Does that necessarily always mean it's equal? No. And is there provisions in there for an unequal distribution? Yes. But Florida presumes it to be equitable, maybe equal, in most of the cases. So let's go from that presumption, and that's in Florida. And then again, I don't know where some people that are watching are around, but there's other states that have community property laws and all kinds of different things. And I'm just talking from my knowledge of the last 15 years, and that's Florida law. But again, it's a general concept that I don't think you need to be specific to just one state when you're thinking of what a divorce is, and that's dividing everything that you have. So it's important to get the information about what you're going to be dividing and what the laws state for the division of that property. And then support, alimony, child support, money that's going to be coming in, going out. That's important for you to know. And there's so much information out there. So as much time that you might spend, again, researching that brand new thing, or a car. Okay, yeah, I get it. Last car we bought, it's like untold amounts of hours of time researching and watching videos and looking at every single different place. Then you make the purchase, you drive off, and you don't really think about that buying decision. With the divorce, it kind of lives with you, though. I'm not saying from the psychological standpoint for the rest of your life, but when you retain an attorney or when you file for divorce, it's not like, okay, that's it, that's over. Now you have to deal with the process. So having the education, having some background, just understanding the verbiage, right? What some of this stuff means, and again, that's what this channel is for. It's for understanding, and again, a roadmap, a guide to divorce. So, like Jerry Maguire, right? Help me, help you. Help me, help you, right? Not show me the money, but help me, help you. Okay, help me, help you. What is it that you don't understand? Comment. You don't have to do it now. You can do it later. I can try to answer things, like I said, in specific to somebody's one set of circumstances. It's so different. In a consultation for divorce, right? And here's the background. Somebody will call in, okay? Call in. And when they speak to intake at my office, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour of information that we get. That's before I even speak to that person. And then sometimes there's questionnaires filled out. We ask for information. And then there's a consultation. That a lot of times that's just to, be able to quote a retainer to start the process. That's just to begin it. Now, and then when you begin, then there's so much documentation that you need, that I need as an attorney, to be able to then start providing my analysis and giving advice during the case. So that's a lot that entailed just to be able to, so being able to say, just I try not to be flippant about answering about answering questions, because again, everybody's situation is a little bit different, and everybody's situation is different in the way that, we're people. we're going to experience everything from our own lens. Everybody that I've probably ever represented, obviously they're going to have it from one way that they viewed it versus how the other side viewed the divorce versus maybe how I viewed it, how the other attorney, how the judge. It's just, it's human nature. And this is extraordinarily emotional, psychologically debilitating area of the law. And it's rewarding if you care about what you do to help people through it. Again, like this channel, like it says on the About Us, we're kind of a tour guide through it. Like the Choose Your Own Adventure books, right? From the 80s and 90s, where you can go on path A and you like fall off a cliff or something, or path B, and then you get all the way till to the end. But each way along the way, there's also path 1, path 2, path A through. There's all these different decisions that you can make, and there's all these different things that are important along the way to be able to get to your. And I don't want to call it a goal, because in some people's situations it's definitely not a goal. It's a divorce. It's and nobody wants. Most people don't get married to be like, oh, can't wait to start planning the divorce. That's not something that happens. So even this channel in general, I get it. It's not like people are like, oh my gosh, like this is so much fun. We're just gonna have a whole barrel of laughs and no, but it's helpful information. It's education on the process. I'm trying to pull back the curtain a little bit. I have enough in my head that I would like to share. And, if people want to pay me for my time, which they do, to represent them, that's one way to do it. But this is also another interesting way. And YouTube is kind of giving us this ability to put some different parameters out there for people to understand their situation a little bit more and to have that education, because divorce is hard, and it sucks. Divorce sucks. Yeah, it does. I tell people I'm not going to sugarcoat it for them. It's the grieving process is the same as a close loved one dying, family member dying. That's some pretty heavy stuff. That's some pretty weighty stuff that people go through. So, any divorce attorney should be taking that into consideration, obviously. I think a lot of them do. And this isn't a live stream to try to rebuild lawyers or divorce lawyers' reputations, but there's a lot of good attorneys out there. There's a lot of good divorce lawyers out there. So they do exist. So sometimes, you need to look to help you to find that guide. There's a bug. It's like the fly, like Mike Pence's hair. So if it just hangs out on my head or something like that, it's cool. But it's tough. Divorce is tough. Divorce is not an easy, but this channel is here as the tour guide and the roadmap. And I know sometimes that may seem a little antiquated, right? Like it's Google Maps now is the new roadmap. But when you pull it out, or if you go to a new city, right, and you want to pull out some information and not just like Yelp and all these other different TripAdvisor and all this, it's It's giving you information. It's showing you around. It's like, okay, here's the attractions, here's the restaurants, here's the hotels, here's everything. Here's a walking tour. You're not going to pick all of it. You're not going to do all of it. You're not going to go to every single restaurant. You're not going to listen to all the advice. There could be somebody on there that wrote the most amazing review and gave all this information. You may not take that. You may not use that, and that's understandable. Because it's your choice. It's your choice of how you want your trip to be when you go to, say New York City, right? Do you go to the Empire State Building? Do you go to the Statue of Liberty? Where do you go? Same thing in your divorce. Is it, a battle? Is it like the War of the Roses movie? Is it something that you look back and you say, yeah, that sucked. But I'm happy the way I dealt with it, the way I kept the kids out of it, didn't burn everything to the ground. So there's those basic choices, and there's a million other choices. So as a divorce lawyer, we realize that a lot of people are just not going to listen to us, not just like this video, but just in general, like we'll give advice, and then some will take our advice and run with it, and some will not. That's their choice. That's the choices, and that's kind of what life is in general, making, it's the sum of a lot of choices that you make. But this channel is, and since this is our first live stream, and I called it the night shift because we've seen that, some of our viewers and subscribers are sometimes on at night. I have a feeling for why, but again, it's when it's weighing on your mind. It's when maybe there was something that kind of happened that day. It's hard to do it at work, to research this, to figure it out, to watch videos, to jump on Facebook or whatever and ask questions. Some of this stuff happens at night. We get a lot of over the years messages late at night, calls, comments, all kinds of different things at night, and that's understandable. So that's why for this live stream we thought let's try it at night. Let's see if there's an interest there, and I think there is. And I hope that I can continue to give some information, because as a tour guide, again, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to walk that path. You don't have to go that route. You don't have to go to whatever restaurant that I suggest, whatever city you go to. But it's more information, and knowledge is power. I know it's a nice little saying, but it's true. So this channel hopefully will give you some knowledge, some power. So let's get back to some of the questions that we had, and I'm gonna scroll through some of these. And again, if you comment on the different videos that are on Foley Divorce, we will try to comment back. Sometimes it'd be better for a situation like this for us to be able to answer some of the information and answer some of the questions. And then in other scenarios, it may be something like there's a couple of them that we've received that kind of goes onto the list of the next ones to shoot a video, because it's a great question that I think a lot of people are asking and want the information about. So from that perspective, we're not going to obviously go through it and answer all of them, but we're going to try to hit a few of them, and we hit the one. This was a comment by DB. My ex, it was on the video, my ex living with somebody and still have to pay alimony. And there was a question about alimony being reduced and terminated if spouse moved to a different state with a new boyfriend. So, and then there's some more specific information. So, and again, feel free to comment again if I don't explain this enough. But the video itself, kind of goes into it that sometimes people are surprised that, and this is again from Florida, that somebody may have an alimony award and the other side is living in a supportive, they call it a supportive relationship in Florida. So like a financially supportive relationship where they're, somebody's spending money on them. They're reducing their need in their bills. Could be as simple and basic, to figure out as, paying for their electric bill or, paying for their credit cards or Venmoing them money. I don't know. But sometimes it's a little bit more complicated to figure out. And sometimes people are really good at, obviously hiding it and not being forthcoming about it, because when there's an alimony award in place, it's not something that, somebody usually wants it to stop immediately. So there is a statute in Florida that can be used to modify or terminate, but it's a high burden too. There's a lot of things that need to be proven to be able to stop it. But yes, there's things in place for reducing and terminating alimony. It's not necessarily just moving to another state. Now there are factors if somebody's like holding themselves out to be married, but not getting married, they'll like call each other husband and wife and like, oh, this is my wife, this is my husband, this is what, but yet they're not married. They never tie the knot, because then the remarriage part of it kind of triggers the whole, termination of alimony that a lot of times people will be, trying to go after pursuant to the law. They'll be looking for that remarriage. But this is a little bit different because it's not a remarriage, right? So they didn't actually tie the knot, but they're living in a way that, for all intents and purposes, they're married. People would find them to be married, and it's now going to have to prove that, and it's a process. We've done it before, and it's a long, complicated scenario in some cases, and sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's just very clear and the writing is on the wall, and it's just okay. That's, let's modify it, let's terminate it, let's move on. So that is a little bit of information about that. And if it didn't specifically answer it, I do apologize. But I think it gave a little bit of information about, it's not just about the moving from state to state, because I'm sure in a lot of situations, let's just say, hypothetically, the reason why the alimony recipient is leaving to go out of the state is because there's a job offer. Maybe their, boyfriend or girlfriend is coming with them, but maybe it's for a job offer. They're going over there, and it's not something, the job is not so much different than what they have currently, because again, sometimes people can be working and still receiving alimony. It's not just for people that are not working. There's levels, there's so much that goes into it. And, timely, in Florida at least, a lot of people have been looking at the Florida legislature, because there's been for the last 3 or 4 years. So this is kind of the portion of the live stream about the alimony reform, right? And and I'm sure this happens in a lot of different states, and Florida has a little bit older, laws on alimony, but this is like the fourth time there's been a try at alimony reform, and each time within the alimony reform, a lot of times they've put in there language about the presumption of 50-50 time sharing, and it looks like last week it might not be going through that proposed bill. I don't know. The Florida legislative session ends, I believe it's April 30th of 2021, and it's April 25th, 2021 right now. So they don't have a whole lot of time. Who knows? Who knows if it's extended, whatever. But each year, and it hasn't been every year that there's been alimony reform bills, but each year there's, I think this is about the fourth time they've tried, and it's gotten to various levels. But as of right now, at least what we're seeing, and I'm reading off the Florida Senate's website, that the bill was on the committee's agenda, and now it's temporarily postponed. So, and there's also some other things out there stating that one of the bill sponsors was stating that it might be next year. So that they'll try to bring the bill back. But so that's just a little bit timely, because I do get questions about that, because again, especially around this time of year, it's coming up. It's always something that every once in a while there'll be questions about alimony reform and what's going on from that perspective. But let's see here. Just some mild technical issues, but I think we successfully moved past that technical issue. But anyways, basically the next comment that we had, and this is one of the ones that I wanted to go into, because, well, before that one, this one's good. So paralegal preparation services versus retaining an attorney to handle your divorce. So I've definitely gotten that question before. As a lawyer, you go through a lot of training, right? You go to college, you go to law school, you got to take a bar exam, you got to practice, and maybe you've had some cases, right? With paralegal preparation, I mean, I'm sure there's different levels, and in every state, I'm sure there's different levels of what a paralegal is classified as, what certifications there are. But sometimes there's just kind of like document preparation services that are out there, and whether it starts to kind of run the line of unauthorized practice of law, where somebody's basically like trying to practice law, without a law degree or a law license, not just a law degree, but also you got to be licensed in that state, to practice in that state. But there's sometimes a lot of questions about that, and I have one here. So thank you for that question about the pros and cons and things associated with paralegal preparation services versus an attorney. Because again, the paralegal preparation services, and I'm not, there's definitely things out there, and it even says on the bottom of a lot of the Supreme Court forms that if a non-lawyer helped you prepare this, state who it is. And sometimes there's clinics, and a lot of times at the courthouse there used to be even more, and there's pro bono. There's all different ways that people can help people fill out forms and get the information. It's just when it starts to blur the line and starts to go into legal advice, and because again, like I said at the beginning of this video, it was, it's got to be that one-to-one of the specific state of circumstances and understanding, because nobody's situation is exactly the same. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. So basically that's, the difference there is an attorney is a trained, licensed advocate for you for your divorce. So are we going to suggest, obviously, yes, to use an attorney if you can? If you can't afford, there are, again, people out there with that's not considered. Again, if it's unauthorized practice of law, you don't want them like showing up to court with you or something like that. It's, that's not what you're looking to do. You're looking to find somebody sometimes for, helping out with different documents. But in Florida, and I'm sure there's a lot of states that have this information. Florida has, it's FLCourts, COURTS.org. And I am always telling people to go to that website. If you see a lot of our older videos, we even put the link in there, and we'll link it down below, because, and again, that's free information. That's information about Florida law, about all these forms that Florida has done a really good job at putting that information out there. And it's in the self-help, the Florida Family Law and Divorce self-help section. And it's super easy to get to. And at some point in the future, when my technical abilities are above what they are for this live streaming, I'll do like some type of a screen share to go on there, because I think it's just so underutilized, and a lot of even attorneys don't even know it's there. So, but go into floridacourts.org, and right on the homepage, self-help information, you just go down the little drop-down box, family law forms. And they've updated it. I mean, there's some really great stuff on there, and easily you can fill out the information. There's PDFs, there's Word versions of it, and then there's some of them that are the more complicated forms, like the financial affidavits and the child support guidelines worksheet. There's also a web-based form that you can just jump right in, start putting in the information. It starts helping you calculate and do all that. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And it's right there, and it's updated, and they update it. A lot of these are updated as of November 2020, and then some of the, there's different dates that they're updated, but it's for divorce, not just for divorce cases. It's got forms up there for divorce, for paternity cases, for domestic violence injunctions, for temporary support, custodial responsibility during deployment, relocation cases, more about paternity and just establishing paternity, enforcement, modification, all the different injunctions, adoption forms, step-parent adoption forms, and some collaborative divorce law forms, simplified dissolution of marriage forms, parenting plans, income withholding orders. I mean, it's all on there. So that information is there. It's free. And it's now here, there's instructions on the front of each one of them. These are Florida Supreme Court approved forms, right? So it says it on there. And then there's some of them have like pages of information in front of it that it just shows all of this information and says, okay, here's, here step 1, step 2, step 3, and just boom, 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 write down of what you need to do. So it's there, and you can, and even if you have an attorney, it's helpful to like look at it and to understand like this is just information that's out there that's not something that you have to pay for. You can just understand it and understand what your attorney's doing, what your attorney's filing. If your attorney mentions a terminology, some type of term that you're just like, what the heck is that? Now, everybody's become like Google lawyers, right? Like it's like the new thing, and Google checking attorneys and all that. So that happens a lot, but it's, and that's fine, to, check and, double check and second check and triple check and all that. But, again, nothing really replaces the actual experience and kind of the, boots on the ground type of situation for attorneys that have done it for a while. But this is huge. And I pointed off camera. That was like super unhelpful. But, when I figure out how to be able to screen share it, boom, it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so, and we can walk through some of those forms at some point. And so if you want to comment on this video of some forms that you would want to see me kind of go through and fill out, there you go, comment. You know, if it's the financial affidavit, that's a good one, because that one is mandatory in every divorce, right? You got to fill that out. And people have so many questions, just solely from the standpoint of which form do I use? Do I use the short form or do I use the long form? What's the differences? What's this? You know, the short form is under 50,000, it says on there, and long form over 50,000. But the long form, and this is another cool thing just on that specific part of it, is the long form has more information on there. It just has, and it helps jog people's memory about expenses and things like that that maybe aren't on the short form. So if you'd like me to, you know, in another live stream or, you know, another video, fill out one of these forms and kind of go through it, and I'd be happy to do that, because again, this website is legit. Legit, right? It is. And this is just Florida. I get it, right? And I'm sure there's people, you know, watching wherever in YouTube land that you are. It, just because it's Florida, you know, doesn't mean that your state doesn't have something similar. And if your state doesn't, well, I don't know. I'm not saying it should. You know, darn it, Minnesota, why don't you have the forms? And maybe Minnesota. I apologize, Minnesota, if you have super legit forms as well. But I'm guessing a lot of states have these types of forms, and sometimes maybe they call them pro se forms. Pro se, it's Latin for oneself, and you know, it's just basically you're representing yourself. So they have these types of forms, and that's another thing, right? Lawyers use a lot of big words, right? And I'm really going to try hard not to do that on this channel as much as I can. Some of them are just by virtue of, you know, it's just part of the law. Like that word, pro se, right? I guess I could have just said, like, you're representing yourself, but you just hear it so much and it just becomes ingrained into our own heads. We're not saying it because we're like, ooh, trying to be mysterious about it. It's just what it is. It's just what, you know. So I'm trying to pull back some of those layers, pull back the curtain a little bit. You know, call me out on it if I do it. And if I can simplify things to, again, there's so many areas of like everything that I don't understand. So, you know, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I know everything about this and that and it. No, I don't. I'm just saying I know a lot about divorce law because I've been doing it for 15 years every single day. So it's Sunday night, 11 o'clock almost. This is what I'm doing. Divorce. So, you know, I know a lot about it. So if I do use that type of terminology, again, it's not, you know, not trying to be, again, I'm not supposed to curse or anything on here. Just, you know, terms and conditions and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, right? That's not my goal. Sometimes we just use terminology because that's just what we've learned. And sometimes you learn it in law school, sometimes you learn it for the bar exam, sometimes you learn it at your first job. My first job, you know, I'm learning a lot of family law. Like that's all I've done, like from, you know, and just learning about the, you know, intricate nature of it. And then it just kind of carries through your career. But in speaking with a client about it, the client's like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, I get it. I do understand it from that perspective. And, you know, feel free to call me out on it. If I'm using, you know, lawyer words that really aren't helping the situation. Because again, the idea of it is, if it's a roadmap, it's a tour guide, and we're just giving some education here, the background, and kind of pulling it back, you know, it's got to be understandable. And it's got to be like, I'm not here just to being like, oh, look, yeah, words. You know, that's not my goal. It's to say, hey, I have this information, I have this knowledge, and I think people should have it. I think people should have it in their hands, and they should at least be able to have information for themselves so they can help themselves through the process. Because even though, and again, everybody is, an expert, right? And I think that was in one of the other videos I made, your mailman's brothers, sisters, cousins, nephews, they did it differently and whatever. And of course the video that we have is my lawyer an idiot, that type of thing. Watch that video. It's again, we're not perfect as attorneys, but it's good to listen to attorneys if you're paying them for their advice, because that's what we sell is obviously our advice. So it's a good idea to kind of listen to them and not like somebody that knows nothing about it. But results may vary because everybody's situation is going to be different. You just tweak one tiny little thing on a knob of 1,000 different, just a little tweak, and your case is completely different. So I don't, there's no one size fits all approach. There's no possible way. It has to be different in every situation. And I myself try to be as creative as I can throughout cases, and I tell clients like bear with me. I'm going to try to be creative about this because I feel like it's necessary, because your situation is so much different, as is everybody's. Everybody's situation is different. So back to the floridacourts.org website. Check it out. Minnesota, step up your game. I'm sorry, Minnesota. It's beautiful over there. I don't know why. I don't know why it was Minnesota. So RK asked had some video ideas on the 5 tips from a divorce lawyer, and we're going to do a video. It's kind of in production right now of saving your marriage from divorce, right? So that's going to be a separate video. Save your marriage from divorce, and that's going to be out, right? So that's a little bit different. But for and he had some other great questions as well, and ideas, a lot of it more from the relationship perspective, right? About saving your marriage. So I'd like to feel like, as a divorce lawyer, this is going to sound weird, but that I have saved a lot of people's marriages. I know that sounds completely weird coming from a divorce lawyer, but sometimes it helps them get to the next step. Sometimes it helps them get to counseling. And a lot of times ones that are finalized is just a percentage of ones that, there's all different phases, of where people are at in their relationships, and in their marriages. So do I have a great answer on how exactly, the absolute mistakes that are going to lead to divorce? And again, I'm going to make a video about, and we've already kind of started some of those reasons, so I'm not going to go into that. But one I will say is, and again, this is not normal, I guess, for a divorce lawyer to be sitting there trying to go. And again, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a licensed mental health counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not any of those things. Part of my life for the last 15 years has been Absolutely a sounding board, a shoulder to cry on, somebody talking people off of ledges, that type, absolutely, like 1000%. But I don't have that psychological background, so I would highly suggest that, looking from it, if it's truly about saving marriage, then, speaking to a marriage counselor. Marriage takes work. Okay, that'll be the one. And really great judge said this in court, so public record, right? I don't think he'll be mad if I say this. He said marriages take work, right? That doesn't, I guess that shouldn't come as some type of big, enormously surprising revelation. But it takes work, it takes time, it takes communication. Whoa, communication, right? And there's so many biological differences between men and women that, I'm not saying that I understand probably, like 5%. But there's so, but again, I'm trying to learn, and I've represented probably about the same percentage of men and women over the years. And I think that's helpful because it helps me see divorces and relationships and problems that come up from both sides. And we've made another video at one point about that if you just represent one area, just men or women or whatever, then it's kind of like an echo chamber, right? You're just hearing the same things over and over again, and you're saying the same things that people want to hear. It's not my job. That's another video, my job is to tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. So it's not my job to just tell you what you want to hear. I'm doing you a disservice if I'm just parroting back exactly what you want to hear. Say it to yourself. I hope that wasn't rude. I mean, that's not my goal, that's not my intent, but it's the truth. You're hiring an attorney for them to give you advice specific to your situation, and they don't have a crystal ball. They don't have, any knowledge of exactly what the judge is going to do. They don't know if the judge rolled out of bed and, fell down the stairs that morning, or I got in a fight with their significant other. You don't know from that perspective, and lawyers don't know either. So getting back to the relationship part of it, though, what the judge said was, it takes work. It's, is it full-time job? Is it part-time job? I don't know. It's whatever you want to characterize it as. But if you're not working on it, if you're not saying to your wife, let's go on a date. Hey, let's go on a date. If you're not saying to your husband the same, it takes a lot of work and it takes communication because people do grow apart. But it's not, it doesn't have to be that way because everybody's always growing, and everybody's changing. And the person that you married 15 years ago is a different person. Completely different person. So do you kind of grow along with them a lot of times, but sometimes people just, just go way off, way off in different directions. So if you're working on that and understanding you're both growing and changing, and there's all different types of things, and this isn't just for situation with people that have kids. This is every marriage and every relationship. Going back to it before, two different people in this relationship together making a completely different relationship that's like unlike anybody else's relationship. So, of course, things are going to change, and you're going to have to kind of change with it over time. And it's when you get to a point where it's like there's no fixing that part of it. That's sometimes where a divorce comes into play. And then obviously the big ones, you know, affairs. People can come back from affairs, though. It does happen. Absolutely, it does happen. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, other vices, gambling, you know, spending, whatever. You know, I mean, those are some of the bigger ones, and there's a whole litany of other, you know, things that come up that we see as, you know, kind of, you know, those break points. We're definitely seeing more or less. Okay, less. For a while, there was an uptick for a while, like boredom. You know, like bored. Like why? You know, 'cause a lot of times, you know, lawyers will ask, you know, why? What's the deal? You know, and for a while it's like boredom. You know, we don't see that as much. People are a little bit less bored, especially the last couple of years. So a little bit less boredom, a little bit more, you know, upticks in some of those other kind of categories, especially the addiction stuff. Yeah. So, you know, that's and the affairs, that always, you know, comes into play. And then just growing apart and becoming, and again, you've made a different relationship. So just because I didn't list out on a specific, you know, wouldn't be a reason why it wouldn't be for you of why you are looking for a divorce or why you're looking to try to save your marriage. You know, you know, it's just, these are just some of the reasons of why these things do happen and why divorces do come about. And a lot of times it is, you know, not working on that relationship, not communicating, and not realizing that, you know, the biological nature of men and women and men and men and women and just in general, like everybody's different. You know, everybody's DNA is different and communication is different. You know, the lens that you see the world is different. So that is a huge, I think, important part. And then, you know, kind of along that, I had and again, I don't know if this was a joke or not, like if this was sarcastic, but BBL, I'll just use the initials. I don't think I can use the full name. On the video, the absolute perfect time to file your divorce. Absolute perfect time to file your divorce. That was the name of the video. And, you know, of course there's, you know, comments of like, you know, he just said it's now. Just now. You know, no, there's different, you know, watch the video. But anyways, there's different reasons, you know, for why you file, when you file, and what the important, but it is, you know, the basic, the summary answer was yes. If you're ready, then you file now. If you're not ready, then don't file. Okay. But it was, imagine getting a woman to like you first. Okay. I don't know if it's a joke or sarcastic or 1000% serious. I don't know. But it runs along the lines of, you know, there's real biological differences between men and women, and most men just don't understand women. And, you know, many men, you know, many women don't understand men. You know, there's a lot of that going on of not understanding that there's true differences in everyone, you know, and then just understanding that that's just what makes people, you know, kind of sometimes special and important. But in a relationship context, it's hard, but working on it. So this ties into the last one, working on relationships, working on yourself, you know, reading things, listening to podcasts, things to better yourself, you know, taking that leap, you know, there's, I don't know if that sounds cheesy or not, but there's somebody out there for everyone. I would imagine, you know. So it's taking that leap. Trying out love can be very rewarding, and it can be painful. And that's, in a divorce, we see, I mean, you know, the two opposite sides of the spectrum that live very closely to each other is love and hate, right? Love and hate. They're living like right next to each other. And that's why divorce is so intense. That's why it's hard. Is because the person that you love so much, right? And that you feel that, you know, immense passion and everything for, when it's bad, ooh, that's where the anger and that other, the flip side, that flip emotion comes in. And sometimes, yeah, it's hate, it's pain, it's just a lot of the visceral, hard stuff. So, but not putting yourself out there. So BBL, put yourself out there, do it. Why not? What do you got to lose? So, another comment, it was on our video, and again, I can't say the whole comment because I'll probably get flagged for it. I don't know if this is going to be like, this is just going to be something that just keeps happening, but won't be able to read all of some comments, but it's divorce. It's tough. It's, you know, and sometimes people just see it and it maybe brings up, it sparks a memory, something that's sometimes repressed, something that's hidden, and then they see it and it's just sometimes not a great, or they just like, they just hate me, the divorce, whatever. I don't know, whatever. But the video, do you have to prove fault in order to get a divorce? That was the name of the video. So DG wrote, my ex-wife and I went in front of a judge when she was 7 months pregnant with her lover's baby. So I can't read the rest of the comment. So what I'll say is, this one blows people's minds when I tell people that, at least in Florida, if you're married and your spouse is pregnant, you're the legal father, right? So maybe you're not the biological father, but you're the legal father. You're married and they're, you know, having a baby before the divorce is final. So that sometimes surprises people, and because people will come to us, and we've seen it, and I know lots of divorce lawyers all over the U.S. have seen it, that people will wait. Sometimes 5 years, they'll be separated, 10 years, 20, 30 years, 40 years. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in between those time frames. So it's not that they don't want a divorce, maybe, and maybe they don't. And it's not that they necessarily want to get back together. I don't know. I don't know what to separate. There's all different. Money, that's one thing sometimes, I'm sure, for some people. Maybe they're thinking they'll just get back together. Maybe they're just got other stuff going on. Sometimes people move and kind of move on. And a lot of times they'll come back to us or to want to get a divorce when they want to get remarried, or they want to buy a house or something. Because again, if you're married, so I think I said this earlier, I know I've said it in a bunch of different videos, from the time you say I do to the time you say I don't, those 2 periods of time, that continuum, I do till I don't, everything in there is marital. So you buy a house, and even though you're separated, you know, there's still some argument there as far as the non-marital nature and all kinds of really complicated passive appreciation stuff that, again, not going to go into the CA case, not going to go into any of that. All I'm saying is waiting sometimes can be the most psychologically, emotionally best thing sometimes for some people, but in the grand scheme of things, it can cause problems because what I just said about like a house. Also, debt. That's a big one too. you know, the other side's racking up a whole bunch of debt, you may be on the hook for it. Now the baby one, that's the one that people are like, wait, no, not my baby, not my baby, not my baby, not my baby. It's your baby. It's not your baby. I mean, it's like your biological baby, but legal baby. So it's just an aspect of Florida law. If the child is born during an intact marriage, it's presumed to be the husband's child, and then there's presumptions that need to be, again, not going to go into the legalese, hoity-toity legal speak, not my goal here, but it's important to talk to an attorney about that, okay? Because that is one that does blow people's mind. Sometimes then I'll say it, you know, kind of in passing, and, you know, like, what, really? But if it's their situation, like if it happened to them, that's when it's like, no. I don't think you understand. Like, no. But yeah, you could be the legal father, but not the biological father. So that's just a little bit of information from the Florida perspective about DG's comment, half of the comment. So the other comments on here, I think we're gonna save for next time. But I do appreciate it. I really do appreciate the comments and the information that people will, you know, put on different videos. And I haven't really been checking the chat because I've been just kind of going through those. But comment on this video later and feel free to put information on that. This is our first live stream, so again, if you know, the next time we'll definitely, I think the whole night shift part of it is important because people do need a little bit of information about divorce just in general, and that is what this YouTube channel is about. So we're here as a way to put some information out there, and as like I said before, just kind of your divorce roadmap and guidebook. So thank you, and I appreciate your time in watching this, and feel free to subscribe to the channel, comment, you know, all that kind of good stuff. We really do appreciate it, and thank you for listening and being a part of it, and have a great one.